What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here with our first Week 12 college football preview right here on the Bluebloods, man. And we have our game of the week. Y'all know how we started off. And we have the number 7 Michigan State Spartans traveling to the number 4 Ohio State Buckeyes. And Ohio State in a top 8 matchup is a 19.5 point favorite as I'm recording in a game that kicks off at 11 a.m. Central on ABC. So I don't want to spoil my picks, but 19 points is a lot of points to give up. So if I'm getting y'all any betting advice, I would have to say 19 points is maybe just maybe sprinkle a little bit on plus 19.5 for Michigan State, even if you think Ohio State's going to win. But just a little friendly advice. But guys, if you're new, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and y'all know with our games of the week, comment your score predictions below. And if you predict the winner and the correct score, you win our $50 Venmo giveaway right here on the Blue Blood. So subscribe to enter that and comment your scores below. But we are going to get a lot of clarity this weekend on the Big Ten championship race. In this game will have giant implications for the college football playoff. It's probably a college football playoff elimination game, as a loss this weekend will be the second loss for both of these teams, as Ohio State has already had a loss to Oregon and Michigan State was upset by Purdue 2 weeks ago. And this is going to be a huge game as we get into this stretch run of the college football season. But let's set the table here before we get into the game. The Buckeyes coming to this one 9-1, 7-0 in the Big Ten, coming off a giant win over number 19 Purdue last weekend. And Ryan Day's squad is right in the thick of all things relevant in college football. They currently hold a one-game lead in the Big Ten East over Michigan and Michigan State, and they find themselves in the top 4 of the playoff rankings as we sit right now going into Week 12. Now, on the other side, the Spartans enter this one 9-1, 6-1 in the Big Ten, and are coming off an impressive 40-21 win over Maryland. But the plan is different. Michigan State is going to aim to ride their Heisman candidate in Kenneth Walker for another top 10 upset this season, and they're looking to take control of the Big Ten East this weekend with a giant win, with already a win over Michigan under their belt. This would put the Spartans in perfect position to make a real run to that Big Ten title game. Now, the other thing, man, this series has a long history. First played in 1912, but did not become a yearly series until the late 60s. And the Buckeyes currently hold a 34-15 series lead over the Spartans and a 5-game winning streak right now. And the last win for Michigan State coming in 2015 in Columbus, which means that they are not going to be afraid of the moment this weekend as Mel Tucker's team rolls in to pull off a giant win. So that's everything we got right now, man. The table is set. Let's get into this giant game this weekend. The key for the Buckeyes, let's start there. For me this weekend, I think the key for this Buckeyes team is going to be CJ Stroud and one of the deepest wide receiving corps in the country at Ohio State. They are going to have to go out there and make plays for this offense. The Spartans are allowing over 320 yards passing per game, an extremely high mark in terms of passing yards allowed for the Spartans. And that's going to be key for Ryan Day and this offense to take advantage of, similar to how Purdue with O'Connell and David Bell were able to take advantage of it 2 weeks ago. So if I'm Ryan Day, I'm handing the football to CJ Stroud and saying, do your thing, push the ball down the field, spread it out to all the playmakers on the outside, and let them go make plays against the secondary. That would be my game plan, and I think that's going to be the key this weekend. You know, you look at this Buckeyes offense, one of the most explosive and productive in the country. They lead the country with over 46 points per game, top 6 in passing offense with over 350 yards per game, and they lead the country with over 550 yards per game average. So they have arguably the best offense in college football right now. And it all starts with Stroud, man. Let's give this kid his props, man. He went through some growing pains early. A lot of people tried to throw him under the bus, especially after that Oregon game. But Stroud's rebounded over 68% of his passes have been completed for over 3,000 yards, almost 10 yards per completion, 30 touchdowns, and only 5 picks. He leads the conference in passing yards per game, leads the conference in passing touchdowns, and leads the conference in passing efficiency. This kid can do it all, and he has firmly placed himself in the Heisman Trophy race as we enter week 12. CJ Stroud has been a key piece to this Ohio State team rebounding and becoming a college football playoff contender. He deserves all the credit in the world this season. And the most dynamic part of his game, in my opinion, has been his ability to attack all levels of the field efficiently. And it puts a lot of pressure on every level of the defense and every player on the defense to win their matchup every single play, or Stroud is going to be able to take advantage of it. Just a quick breakdown in his short game, 0 to 9 yards. He's completing over 80% of his passes for over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, no turnovers. In the intermediate range, 61% of his passes are completed for over 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, and a 93.4 PFF passing grade in those intermediate concepts, 10 to 19 yards down the field. And in the deep routes, 20 plus, he's thrown for over 500 yards, 10 touchdowns, 13 big time throws, and almost a 92 PFF passing grade. This kid can do it at all levels can attack all levels of the defense. He does a great job distributing the ball to his playmakers and not making big mistakes in the biggest moments. I don't think CJ Stroud is going to shy away from this moment. And for me, he's going to really be the main X factor for this Ohio State offense and how they perform this weekend. And I think this could be a big chance to really give him that signature performance to put him right at the top of this Heisman race if he has a giant game. Now, the wide receiving core for the Buckeyes, in my opinion, is one of the deepest in the country. This team has multiple guys who can take over the ball game, make plays to win, and this weekend the Michigan State secondary is going to have to find an answer. You look at Jackson Smith, 59 catches for over 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns. Top 10 in receptions, top 5 in yards per catch. He's second in yards per game in the conference. And on top of that, you have Garrett Wilson, 53 catches, over 800 yards, 9 touchdowns. And on top of that, you have Olave with over 700 yards and 11 touchdowns this season. All these guys rank in the top 10 in almost every statistical wide receiving category. And all three of them have had signature games over these past 2 seasons. Wilson, Olave, Jackson Smith, all of these guys can take over a game and be the key piece to winning the game. And a lot of these games, they all three have giant days. And what it allows CJ Stroud to do is he's able not to just lock onto one receiver. He's able to sit back in the pocket and find the guy who's making the route. And a lot of the times when you look at the film, there'll be 2 or 3 guys open and he just gets to choose who he throws the ball to. You have to give these wide receivers a lot of credit for what Ohio State's been able to do on the offensive side of the ball. Also, the tight end is also solid. Jeremy Ruckert, 22 catches, 256, and 3 touchdowns. He could be a key piece in this passing offense at times as well, especially in the red zone. But for Ohio State, if I'm Day, I am giving the ball to CJ Stroud and saying, go be a playmaker. And then I'm going to tell those wide receivers that you got to go win your one-on-one matchups on the outside and go make plays for your young quarterback. And for me, that's a recipe for success, and that's going to be the key this weekend for the Buckeyes over Michigan State. Now, for the Spartans, what do we have to talk about, guys? Y'all know what the key is for Michigan State, and it lies all in the legs of Kenneth Walker III, man. The Spartans' rushing attack this weekend has to be there. When you have a Heisman candidate like you have with Walker, you got to give him the ball and say, go win me the game. Just like you did with Michigan 3 weeks ago in East Lansing with 5 rushing touchdowns, you got to say, Walker, take me to the promised land this weekend. And so you look at the Spartans attack. They have the fourth best rushing attack in the Big Ten currently. They average almost 200 yards per game on the ground, and they rank second in yards per carry with over 5 yards per carry in the Big Ten right now. And it's like I said, Kenneth Walker, bro. What else can you say? Over 1,400 rushing yards, 6.5 yards per carry, 17 rushing touchdowns, and a receiving touchdown. He leads the country in rushing yards, yards per game, rushing touchdowns, and also is top 12 in yards per carry in the country right now. I mean, this guy can do everything you want in a running back and more, and he's one of the few game-changing running backs that we have seen in college football this year, and he's really honed. He's probably locked up the Doak Walker Award right now. I mean, that's give it to him. But if there's been a running back in this recent history that deserves the Heisman Trophy, Kenneth Walker has made that argument. And if he has another performance this weekend, like he did against Michigan 3 weeks ago, you might as well say that he is the leading candidate. Because if he puts on another 3 to 4, 5 touchdown performance, Kenneth Walker has really made his case. And especially if he helps lead this team to a big upset in Columbus, this is going to be Walker's Heisman moment. He's got to live up to the challenge. Now, he's going to put a lot of pressure on the edges of this Buckeyes defense. The defensive ends are going to have to set the edge, and the linebackers are going to have to be disciplined in their gaps, or Walker's going to have a big day. Running off tackle or off edge, he's rushed for almost 1,000 yards, over 8 yards per carry, 13 of his rushing touchdowns, over 50 first downs generated, and 30 explosive runs or 10 or more yards off the edge or off tackle. You are going to have to set the edge and be disciplined if you're Ohio State, and the linebackers are going to have to play sideline to sideline and show a little bit of athleticism, or it could really put a lot of pressure on this Ohio State defense because you cannot let Kenneth Walker get that momentum and get confident and get going. If Kenneth Walker gets rolling, Ohio State's in a lot of trouble. Now, as much as it is a key for this team to rush the football, the other aspect of this offense has to be Peyton Thorne's ability to be efficient and his ability to make the handful of throws to keep the defense honest and create some explosive plays. You look at that Michigan game, they leaned on Walker, but Thorne was able to make some big plays, including that fourth down fade play to the pylon that he made and hit Jalen Reed for a giant conversion and set them up to score one of the touchdowns that ultimately led them in that comeback win. Now for Thorne, man, over 2,400 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 8 picks, 3 rushing touchdowns. He's second in the conference in passing efficiency, top 5 in completion percentage, and top 6 in yardage. Peyton Thorne has really exceeded expectations this year, but this weekend you have to avoid interceptions and you cannot fall victim into being one-dimensional. You have to make a handful of throws to open things up for Kenneth Walker in this rushing attack and really make it easier on your offensive line so Ohio State just can't load the box and play one-on-one on the outside. Now, the wide receivers are going to play a big part in this too because when Ohio State loads the box, these wide receivers are going to have to go make something over the top in this one-on-one matchups. You look at Jaden Reed, you look at Jalen Naylor. These guys are going to have to play big time. Jalen Reed over 800 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns. Jalen Naylor over 580 yards, 6 touchdowns, and also even Trey Mosley with over 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. These 3 guys are going to be crucial to allowing Michigan State to be balanced in their attack this weekend and keep up with what looks to be a potential shootout game against the best offense in college football. You cannot let them load the box and play man up on the outside and think they can live like that. If they man you up on the outside and load the box with 7, 8 guys, these wide receivers are going to have to make them pay, or it could be a long day. Because if Ohio State has too much talent to load the box and play one-on-one on the outside, that cannot happen if you're Michigan State. So the key is to run the ball for Michigan State, but also one of those sub keys has to be make a handful of throws down the field to keep the defense honest for Thorne and these talented wide receivers. Now, the matchup to watch, I'm a cheat just a little bit. I like to pick one positional matchup, but for me, I'm just going to pick the full line of scrimmage battle on both sides of the ball. So the Michigan State O line versus Ohio State's D line, and vice versa with Ohio State's O line and Michigan State's D line. these matchups are going to play a giant factor in who can escape with a big win this weekend in the Big Ten. You look at the O line for Michigan State. I don't know how they do it, guys. This is the most unique situation. Coming from a guy who played O line, I've never seen anything like this. They rank fourth in the Big Ten in sacks with 16 sacks allowed this season, but they're so unique in how they do it. Michigan State has consistently used a 9-man rotation this season in which all 9 players who are rotating are probably going to reach 300 or more snaps in the season. And I have never heard a situation like this, especially one that works to the level that Michigan State has performed on the offensive line. They just mix and match, rotate in fresh bodies, and it has really worked for this team. And I've never seen it happen like this. I've never even seen the idea be thrown around, but they do it at an extremely high level. But Blake Buter at guard, highest graded O lineman at an 81.4 PFF blocking grade, only 1 sack allowed and 5 total pressures. And also JD Duplain and Kevin Jarvis at offensive guard. Both have played huge. Duplain's the highest graded pass blocker with an 86.7 PFF passing grade, and Jarvis has only allowed 2 total sacks and 9 total pressures all season. The guard spot is a very, very strong point for this Michigan State team, and they're going to have to play huge this weekend against a very talented Ohio State D line that ranks number 1 in the Big Ten in sacks this season with over 33 total sacks over the first 10 games. You look at Haskell Garrett, Tyleik Williams, Zach Harrison, Tyreek Smith, Antoine Jackson Jr., not even including Jack Sawyer. All these guys can play giant, but the number one X factor for me is Haskell Garrett in the middle. If he can create some push against these centers and guards, he is going to disrupt the run game tremendously. He already has 4.5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. Haskell Garrett is a force on the inside of this D line. If he creates havoc, that's going to be a problem for Michigan State's running attack. Also, Harrison, Smith, and Williams off the edge have been electric at times. Also, Sawyer off the edge. And if these guys can create explosive plays off the edge, it's going to be a problem. You look at that Penn State game, as much as Penn State was in that game, them getting to Clifford changed the game. You cannot allow these defensive ends to get to Thorne and make plays, because when they get sacks, they're really great at forcing fumbles and making big plays happen. And getting behind the line of scrimmage and being off rhythm with your offense is going to allow this talented front seven to come after you at full force. And you cannot have that. Now, on the flip side, this Ohio State O-line ranks second in the Big Ten in sacks allowed, only 11 allowed this season. The O-line is extremely deep. It's led by DeJuan Jones at offensive tackle and Nicholas Petit-Free at offensive tackle. Both are going to be very high NFL draft picks in the future. Only 3 combined sacks allowed and less than 25 total pressures for these two guys allowed. The tackle spots are so strong off the edge, and so that's great because Michigan State's strength is off the edge with their edge rushers. Now, Paris Johnson Jr. and Luke Whippler at center have been strong pieces of this offensive line. They've done an excellent job of keeping CJ Stroud clean, allowing him to push the ball down the field. And they deserve a lot of credit for the Buckeyes being so balanced and being one of the best total offenses in the country. Now, for the Michigan D line, man, this is going to be a tough matchup. They rank second in the Big Ten in sacks, right behind Ohio State with 31 sacks over their first 10 games. Jacob Panuski, 5.5 sacks, 8.5 tackles for loss. Jeff Petrowski, 5.5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss. These guys off the edge have to play giant football. If you can get after CJ Stroud, make him feel uncomfortable, and force him into a handful of mistakes, that's going to be the key this weekend. If you can give your offense extra possessions and they can win the time of possession battle and wear down that Ohio State defense, that is going to be key because you're going to try to run the ball efficiently and effectively. Also, Simeon Barrow and Drew Beasley are going to have to be some big pieces as well. Barrow, 2.5 sacks from that D tackle spot. They're going to have to play strong. Travion Henderson is no joke at the running back spot with over 1,000 yards rushing this year. This D line is going to have to play big time football for Michigan State if they want a chance to win this game. They got to help their secondary out by getting pressure on CJ Stroud, because if you allow him to sit in the pocket and take his time, he's going to pick you apart down the field. Now, for these predictions, man, if this game probably would have been week 3, I would have said Michigan State wins this because the rushing defense for Ohio State was playing so bad. But over these past few weeks, I've been extremely impressed with Ohio State. I think they've been playing some of the best football in the country. And as much as I've been a huge Michigan State guy this year, I think this matchup is terrible for them, especially with how electric this offense can be for Ohio State. And the one weakness Michigan State has been that secondary. I think it cost them this weekend, but I do think this game is closer. I just don't see Ohio State being able to win this game by 19 or 20 points like the point spread says. I think this is a one-score game. I just trust Ohio State's defense to make one play to win this game compared to Michigan State's defense. And I just, for Kenneth Walker, he's going to have a giant game. It's just that secondary versus this passing attack for Ohio State is just too big of a matchup for me to overlook. So I'm going to go with Ohio State this weekend, 42-35 over Michigan State, a 7-point win for the Buckeyes and a shootout in Columbus. So I got a 7-point win for the Buckeyes, 42 Ohio State, 35 Michigan State, and a 7-point win for the Buckeyes, man. Ben, I appreciate y'all tuning in. This is our first Week 12 preview. We have another one coming this afternoon. Oregon traveling to number 24 Utah in a giant Pac-12 game. Make sure to tune into that. Check out all our Week 12 content on our Week 12 playlist. Make sure to subscribe. Comment your score predictions below to enter our $50 Venmo giveaway. Also, give a big thumbs up to the video. Do all those things. Enter the giveaway. And if you want more exclusive Blue Bloods content, make sure to support the show by joining our membership, man. I appreciate all of y'all. I promise it'll be worth it. And I appreciate y'all choosing the Blue Bloods to get y'all's daily college football content, man. But for right now, the Blue Bloods are out.